Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, No One is Perfect, where we have real conversations about life's messiness. And it does get very messy.
Mhm.
My name is Marty Murphy. I'm a EFT practitioner and emotional fitness coach. And, my predominant technique is tapping. And when Christy and I got together to do this, again, it was just like, there's mess in life, and let's talk about that. So I'm very happy to be here with you, Christy.
Thanks, Marty. It's it's been wonderful to be with you and talk about the messiness because that's really what we're going to talk about today. Um, I work with a lot of people. I do somatic. I would say I help people do somatic expression and help them understand how it shows up in the body and different ways to move it out of the body so it doesn't continue to compound like interest compounds. It does the same thing in our bodies. And
Yeah,
I love the connection with the tapping because the tapping help us to understand what's running through our brains and then how the body is creating that contraction with each time it runs around the loop in our heads.
right.
So yeah, it's a beautiful marriage in those two.
Yes.
And so today our conversation is going to be about shame, which every human has, I believe. Well, not maybe not. I would say most every human has,
Probably.
just because being human is that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the core emotions that I think is one of the most challenging and difficult ones to sit in and or access because it's so big.
It's so big. Yeah,
So
it's
big.
just so profound. And yeah, I know. It's like I think about my upbringing in Catholicism, and I was literally, my particular upbringing in Catholicism is basically you were just shame ridden. It's like you feel ashamed of yourself about everything, and you're constantly trying to run from shame. And like every move you make has this potential to put you into a shame spiral. You're basically taught, you're born with original sin scored on your heart and all this stuff, like you're an innocent baby coming into the world. And so that just gets instilled in you from the get-go. And everything that I witnessed around me, I mean, I think about it, and I think for me personally, shame has probably been the hardest to reach emotion and yet the most predominant, even more so than like my rage and stuff. It's like that below all that is this like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a really tender space.
yeah.
And I remember the first time I read Brene Brown's book when she first came out and did a TED talk and about shame. And she did some talk about going to parent teachers conference and the different experiences that she had about being a working mom, and there's moms that weren't working, and just how shame showed up. And I remember sitting in the cars, I'm waiting for my kids after work, and I thought, oh my God, I have felt that and I have thought that. And sometimes I think too, and I speak for women here, how women can tend to reapply some shame based on their own beliefs. Men do too, but I just think of mothers in schools and my experience with that women's choices are there because we do have a choice. And how sometimes it can be so easy to project onto someone shame without even knowing you're doing it.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
totally.
I think a lot of times it's done unconsciously and we don't realize that's what's happening.
Right. Right. That's so funny you say that too, Chrissy, because I was, and not that I'm like the queen of consciousness about it, but I was so unconsciousness to my own shame. And I notice now, like with certain personalities, if I'm dealing with someone that's super challenging, I'll be like, yeah, I went for the shame. I went down the shame spiral with them. Just like I used shame in this way. Like made the choice to go, I'm going to go for the guilt and shame because this person's not getting it. Like it's wild that I made that conscious choice. Like I'm going to go for that with them.
Mm,
And to see how like we can do that like so unconsciously and consciously depending on our own wounding and what's going on, that saying hurt people can hurt people and also hurt people don't
oh,
hurt people. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard that one. Hurt people can hurt people.
Yeah, hurt people hurt people. And then I had someone post something, oh, and there's hurt people that don't hurt people. There's some hurt people that go in and they do their work. And I loved that one as well. But I mean, I know that when I think about it, for me, if I've been hurtful to someone, when I really go inward about it, it's definitely like I'm hurting inside myself. And if someone has hurt me, when I really pay attention, I can get out of the way of my own, like thing about it in the moment, which tapping helps me to do. I'm like, wow, that person's really hurting. And
Yeah.
that's why they did that. That's why they lashed out. And I think it always goes back to that learning to love the parts of us that we want to reject the most.
Yeah. And being aware that those parts are there.
Yeah.
And in my work with somatics, how it shows up in the body so much is shame in general energetically is in what's called the base chakra, which is the lower part of the pelvis, the stomach, the legs, the feet. And what can happen is a collapsing of the pelvis and a collapsing of the body so that you actually become smaller. You become tucked in. The body responds to an internal experience. And over time, that can really create different kinds of pain because that contraction and wanting to be invisible, because the belief or the experience is that I'm bad or I'm not worthy of being seen or being loved, create the body's response to that literally happens.
I know
And
I find I love psychosomatics because it's just so illuminating that way.
it
Yeah.
is. And I think it's really challenging too, because I know when I first was introduced, well, I was with you in Vegas and understanding that my posture, I realized today more than I did then, was I was holding so much shame because my pelvis was tucked under. And part of that is like, the best way I can describe it is like a dog. When you get angry at a dog, their tail tucks under their bum and then they're like, and that's how my body was functioning.
Mm, great
And
analogy.
I had no idea.
Right.
I had no idea that that number one was a thing, let alone that that's the pattern that I was holding in my system.
Yeah. That's interesting too, Christy, because I had a physical, I'll call it, malady that I had very punishing symptoms for years. And it was like, I mean, it was just like, oh. And I noticed once I started tapping, like, and I tapped through my shame,
Mhm.
the symptoms went away. And I think it's just so, so amazing. Yeah.
Well, I think we don't give enough credit to the intelligence that runs constantly. And our minds, we want to dissect it and figure it out and all this stuff. And the body's always working with whatever we're dissecting, whatever
Hmm.
we're tapping through or being aware of. It is the intelligence with your mind. And so I'm not surprised, because what I've seen in my work is as people clear an emotional aspect, whatever that is, or I would say they're witnessed in it, that they can share that or have awareness brought to an aspect that they can't see sometimes.
Right.
What that does is it brings light into very dark spaces.
Yes.
And sometimes, yeah, it makes the tears come up and the that kind of movement, which is good because shame and guilt, and I would say shame's even stronger than guilt, gets pushed down, and it's like a volcano. It comes out regardless because you can't get rid of energy. You can't swallow it. You can't put it away. It has to move eventually. And usually when it moves, it's with a trigger.
Right.
And then once the volcano goes, what I know I have said, you probably said is, I don't know what that was. What just happened? Like, right? The volcano and like, I don't know who that was, but that's not me.
Oh, and it's funny because I have kind of the opposite now. Like, oh, that volcano went, and I know that's me. Like, it's
Yeah.
hilarious because I think I've had time to sit with like all the suppression. But I did have this happen recently where I was like dealing with a situation that was just beyond ridiculous. And I remember screaming at the top of my lungs, like that, almost like, yeah, this blood curdling scream, like, and I was like, wow, like just so aware of like, that's in me.
Yeah.
And, and I do sessions for myself too. And the woman that I work with too, she's like, Marty, that just makes so much sense. All the suppression throughout your childhood and the religion you were in and just the cultural programming. And then it's like, the lid's off and the lid
Yeah.
ain't going back on now.
It can go back on.
No, nor should it. And
Yeah.
it's out and it's like, and to have that experience and not feel shame about it, to actually start to embrace like, man, that is like a powerful part of me. you know, but the shame can just debilitate that.
It can.
Yeah.
It can. And yeah, I think the willingness to observe yourself in the moment, sometimes after the moment, because I know for me in those moments too, I've watched myself have the explosion of however that looked, thinking, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it or do whatever that is. And then the reassessment and perhaps the mending of, it's okay that that happened.
Yeah.
It's okay that I reacted that way. And
Right.
that's why I do love tapping, because it traces it back to, when was the first time that you felt that way,
Yeah.
right? And most often it always tends to go back to a memory in childhood.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's where the intelligence of our somatic system, our soft tissue, our blood, our breath remembers regardless of time. And because I'm sure, Marty, here again, you hear, well, that was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
I've done my work around that. I've cleared that. Yeah. And there's another layer.
Yeah, Christy, I hear that a lot too. Like I've done that work already. And in the EFT world, we call it aspects, which I think I talked about. I don't always remember exactly what we talked about on here, but aspects are there's different aspects to memories. That's why, like, if I'm doing a session and I had a session today and somebody had a particularly shameful experience that was coming up. And she finally said, you're the first person I've ever said what happened out loud to.
Yeah.
And she was met with utter compassion because I understand that now where it's like that, because I've judged that part of me. It's like that's the part of us that needs the love and caring the most because that's the part that saved us. The
Yeah.
part that, did that shameful thing because that's the pattern that was learned to help a child survive. So the child's
Absolutely.
acting out. And the more I see this too, Chrissy, because I have worked with so many people. It's interesting that have come from like sexual abuse backgrounds too. And that you talk about shame in that environment. And it's just so like how they blame themselves in some way, all the stuff that they say to themselves. And in my world, my job is to like, that's the part that saved me. And still within that child was so brilliant to
Mhm.
behave that way to figure out how to survive. And, the more I work on that with others and the more I work on it with myself, it just embeds more. And I find again, it's a journey that I can access that more. Like, you didn't do anything wrong here. You didn't do anything wrong. Where before it was like, I'm sorry I'm breathing. I'm sorry I'm taking up space. I'm sorry I'm living. I'm sorry I have needs. I'm sorry I have wants. I'm sorry I'm expressing myself. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And it's like, yeah.
I remember when I first was made aware of that I was saying I was sorry. It was unconscious. I didn't know that I was.
Right.
And my person said, Christy, it's okay to not apologize. And I said, what do you mean? Because I wasn't aware. And they said, well, you're saying I'm sorry for, and then they gave me the list. And she said, I want you to practice when you say I'm sorry to stop and say, I'm not sorry.
Mm,
Be, to begin to change it. So I became aware of, because really I wasn't sorry. It's a learned, that's a learned pattern to apologize.
absolutely.
And I think more so for women than men by
Absolutely.
far, in that
Absolutely.
good girls are quiet, they do as they're told, they blah, blah, blah. And you apologize when you might be too loud or too much, or you have a need or you're upset. And if you're one of those people, some people don't apologize, but if you're one of those people that say, I'm sorry, when you notice it, just pause and ask yourself, am I really sorry? Am I sorry that I need a drink of water or that I need to go pee? No. And practice being aware of your own language so you can begin to shift it and allow yourself to sit in the uncomfortableness of not being sorry. Because it takes a while for that to shift in your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. Without the guilt, without the shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had two recent incidents that came up and I noticed that I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Hey, I don't feel shame about that. Like, I don't feel shame at all, and that was quite something to, like, wow, I was able to say what I needed to say, to put it out that way and go, whoa, I don't feel ashamed.
That's huge.
So huge. So, and I didn't
That's
feel
huge.
guilt. It was like, I feel free. It was always guilt and always shame
Mhm.
before. Yeah.
Well, those are powerful motivating forces from culture, whatever culture that is, to get people to do what they're told and to stay within, within the tribal system. That's not necessarily negative or positive. It just is part of a tribal system.
Yeah.
But starting to grow up and become, like you say, more emotionally fit, it is the separation of allowing that tribal system or people that to have their opinions and to have the way they believe, and know that that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
That truly is that growth that can be really, really painful sometimes, but it's so freeing because, just like you said, I didn't feel shame around it. You've let
Yeah.
go of your tribal system,
Yes.
that you don't need to feel shame because that isn't
Right.
your identity anymore.
Yeah. Right. And that's back to that, the child self, the one that's doing all those things that we feel ashamed of, that child will sell their soul to stay a part of the tribe because they know they can't survive on their own. And to remember when we get down on that part and be like, no, that's survival. I mean, it's always such a work in progress. It's always a
Yeah,
reminder. And then you have those days where you're like that, I, I don't feel guilt. I don't feel shame. Wow.
that's a celebration day,
Yes. Yeah.
because that's really growing up into what people refer to as the sovereign self,
Yes.
is
Yeah.
knowing that you are the one directing traffic in your own system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have all these different aspects, like what you were saying, and there's people who do the parts work. We have all these different parts of us. And I think the more that we heal and become aware, they don't hold on to control of us as long as they used to.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it still happens. And
It
sometimes
does.
it's for a moment or a week, and then hopefully coming back to what is in alignment for my own self and sovereign self versus all of the chaos over here.
Yeah. Yeah. So well said. Yeah.
And you had something you'd read right before we started. I want you to read that out of your book and tell
Yeah.
us
So
what your
this is
book is.
It's called Emotional Fitness by Janice Berger. I actually had an email exchange with her. A friend of mine told me about her. She's Canadian. I think she's still alive. So, like a wonderful human being. But so, Emotional Fitness, Discovering Our Natural Healing Power. And this is chapter 8 on shame. We're just going to read a couple paragraphs. Shame, the silent killer of the human spirit.
Mm,
Shame is a silent killer because it prevents us from revealing to the world who we really are. We hold on to our shame as an adult, it becomes totally debilitating. Like worthlessness, shame becomes a devastating defense because it keeps us stuck. It takes courage to face our shame and feel it. It is an enormous key because when we feel our shame, we loosen underlying feelings that are fundamentally destructive to our well being. In doing so, we free feelings that have been bound by our shame and that are essential to living a healthy, vibrant life. Our feelings become shame bound if it was unacceptable for us to express them. When we have to hide how we feel, we come to believe that we are bad, to have those feelings, and we are ashamed. Cultural directives also bind many families by leading them to believe that some feelings are less acceptable if we are male and others less acceptable if we are female. For example, it has been taboo for men to show that they are feeling weak, vulnerable, or out of control with sad feelings. Females have had to hide their anger or risk being labeled unfeminine when we are ashamed of our feelings and we are ashamed of ourselves. And it's so I love that too, because before I ever read that, doing sessions with clients, that's where the book I wrote, Forbidden Emotions, The Key to Healing, came out, because I was like, wow, there's so many emotions that, especially like anger for women, rage for women, sadness for men, that are forbidden. Like I'm not, and then I read that and I'm like, whoa, you know, because you see that with people,
mhm.
it's like that's okay to feel and that's not.
Yeah,
Yet, like I always say, why were we born with this amazing full palette of emotions if we weren't meant to feel them?
right. And that is the dance, isn't it?
Yes,
To really feel into what is there,
yes,
what's being held. And uh, I think it's essential too to express that, to have one other human being be with you in that expression of is really, really important,
yeah,
because it does help in healing. And there's more and more research about this, that being with someone is the process, it's the community of healing. So
yes,
to say something like, I've never spoken that out loud to anyone before, begins to take the charge out of the secret, because
yes,
they're secrets.
yes,
And there's so much shame because the fear of judgment.
yes,
They'll think I'm really horrible if they know this about me.
yes,
And so choose
yeah,
your people wisely. And I would say a lot of times it's one, maybe two people in your world that you could call up and
absolutely.
say, I'm feeling this way. Can you hold space for me? Not fix
Right.
it, but just to listen and just
Yeah,
hear you. That, and Brene Brown in her work, if you don't know her, I would suggest her,
absolutely.
talks so much about what she calls the shame gremlins and how they start to literally take over.
Yes.
And you having another human being to work through or sit with shifts that power.
Yeah. And we talked about that book. It did it where oh, I can't remember the name of it now. What Happened to You, with
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah, and he calls it dosing. And I love that. Like your friends or you dose with them. It's like he was talking particularly about Oprah and Gail and how they talk and they talk about their stuff. And you're dosing. It's like your own form of therapy. That's the
Mhm.
support system and you don't judge each other and you're just listening to each other. And as soon as someone's having a conversation with someone and they feel like they're being judged, I mean, I know I shut down. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
gotta go. And that's why you want those people in your life that no matter what, they'll just listen. And you know this, Christy, as a practitioner, that's why it's so important to stay on top of your own stuff because, like you, I have heard so much stuff in sessions. Like, there's just not a lot that surprises me.
Mhm.
But the key is to be that space for someone to share, to be able to say, I've never shared this with anyone. And to go like to let them know, like, hey, here's what's going on there without the judgment, like, I can't believe you did that, or to be like, oh, what? Like that.
Yeah.
It's like to go, no, of course. Of course you did that. That's how you learn to survive. And the more I pay attention to that within myself. That's why I always think you got to keep working on your stuff.
Yeah.
Or I can hold the space for someone to be like, oh, you think that's bad? Let me tell you about what I did, and then it's like,
Well, it helps.
it
It
does. It
it
does.
helps. And as a practitioner, Marty, I think we can hold this space to the degree of the work we've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, I think there can be triggers that come in as a practitioner or projections, and
Yes,
that's humanness too.
absolutely.
And that's why it's so important for practitioners to do their own work, for parents to do their own work,
Yes,
friends, because life happens and it's continually happening until we're dead.
right. And I think we talked about this before too, like in tapping sessions. I noticed if I'm working with someone and something is like, oh, that's triggering, I have this noticing of like, I'm tapping for myself here too. I just have that notice like, wow, that's triggering something in me. And I'm also tapping for myself here. And just that acknowledgement is like, it's so helpful because I'm just like, oh, that great. I'm getting the borrowing benefits.
Yeah, which is wonderful,
It is.
which
Yeah.
is wonderful. The and we'll talk about a little bit more in the body after we do some tapping, but some of the main areas that you might notice, like the tuck in the pelvis is
Yeah.
one. So as we go through the tapping that you're going to do today, I invite you to notice or even ask your body, where is shame held in me today? Is there any? And may I would place a hand on your heart and on your belly and just settle into where is that at and to ask it, what is it holding or what does it have to say?
So good.
And
So
you'll also do this, I know, but I would also say, and how old are you?
yeah, it's so
That's a key
important.
one.
Yeah. How old do you think, like, if you had to guess, how old are you? Sometimes people are like, I don't know. Well, if you had to guess, somehow if you had to guess, it lets them off the hook and they're like, oh, 5. And I always
Yeah.
tell them, trust that. Like, trust what your brain's feeding you. And that 5-year-old is speaking to you now. And
Yeah.
obviously feels safe enough with you now to be like, I got to talk about my shame.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do some tapping. And as always, take
Great.
responsibility for yourself. If you get triggered, keep tapping. That's huge because keep tapping until you feel like I always say the dam breaks and you're like, oh, whoa, okay, something changes. So karate chop, even though I feel so ashamed, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I did that. And I'm totally judging myself. And I'm right to judge myself. I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. Even though I feel embarrassed and ashamed, and I feel the judgment of self, I choose to honor these parts of me now. Even though that shame feels so deep, I'm so afraid of it. I don't want to feel that again. I choose to honor, I feel this way now. Go to the eyebrow, all the shame. It feels debilitating. What if, even if I don't believe it right this moment, I could just say, it's okay. What if shame in its essence is actually just a feeling? What if that can help me separate from the shame? Even 1%. I'm afraid of my shame.
Mm.
What if that's okay? What if that's the place to start? I don't want to feel this shame, and you can't make me. And what if I can make that okay? No forcing, no pushing here. Meet myself exactly where I'm at. I don't want to feel it. And what if by making that okay, that's the best first step? I don't have to feel it right now. I can just honor that I don't want to feel it and let that little kid in me know when they're good and ready, we'll go there. But for right now, this is just honoring how afraid of it I am, how scary that feels, and not make myself wrong for that.
Mm.
And what if that's the first place to start? And take a breath.
Mm. That was great, Marty.
Yeah, I like to do that in layers, especially like with shame, because that can be like, whoa. And again, it's no forcing here, no pushing. It's like, this is you learning to respect yourself. Like, no, I'm not doing it. And we call it refusal tapping. I'm not going to feel it. You can't make me. And
Oh,
it's that's to be honored. Like that, no, I'm not going to do it. But it's like, that's the first step. Because sometimes I think people get pushed. I had a client that came to me once and she was working with somebody else, and it was like, whoa, like I had to like work with her to deal with the trauma that got triggered in her with the practitioner, because
mhm.
I'm guessing this practitioner had their own agenda, and it was like, no, you just got to start with like, I don't want to feel it, I'm afraid of it, and make that okay. Like
Yeah.
that's the first place to start, not like let's bulldoze through that. I have clients that are like, no, I want to bulldoze through it, but that's their choice. It's not me like pushing my agenda, like we've got to get to the bottom of this. I mean, and I was trained in tapping to like go deep, but
Mhm.
I'm wise enough to know like, you have carte blanche to say that's too much. I'm not ready for it. And the
Yeah.
refusal tapping is honoring the part that's like, I'm not going to do that. Uh-uh.
Yeah. And so important to have choice
Yes.
in that. And I hear that I've had many people through the years come in and say, I just want to get rid of this, or I want to bulldoze. I don't hear that word very often, but I hear, I just want this done. I want to get rid of it. Like it's a piece that is bad.
That's resistance, right?
Yeah. And the invitation to, instead of getting rid of it, but the invitation to be curious about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
and like the tapping, and even um noticing where that sensation or feeling is in the body with, I just want to get rid of it. Where do you
Yes.
notice that feeling? And to kind of allow yourself to access that part.
Yeah.
I would suggest with someone, just so
A
you don't
100%.
spin off into Never Never Land.
Right. It's so important to have that support, especially in that shame that can go to the spiral. And like I always tell people with tapping, you can have very strong emotions surface. You could start to cry and feel overcome. That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
'Cause it's showing you you're targeting something. And at the same time, like that's why to me it's important to have that support until you feel comfortable on your own to be like, no, no, I can handle that myself. Because you need that safe place to be like, hey, can you pick me up here? Because I'm gonna fall apart.
Yeah. And allowing the falling apart.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be massive. Sometimes it is, but even just the tiniest movement of
Yes.
falling apart actually is really positive, because that holding together in the tissue, and that
Yeah.
it's called armoring in the soft tissue that becomes really, really hard, and people will get it along their shoulders, they'll get it in their hips and their butt. Sometimes their legs will be like just solid. That
Yeah.
is the holding it together from years of holding it together, and the slightest movement and release of the tissue with awareness allows the body to let go. And most often there's tears with that.
Oh yeah. And to me, the big key is, I mean, we see it in movies, everything. I hear it in myself sometimes. Oh, I'm feeling emotional. We're so trained to
Mhm.
be like, "Oh, I've got to grasp that in. And I'm very encouraging in sessions, like as much as you can, let it go. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, not let it go, but like try and like allow yourself to just like cry as much as you can. Do whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And because I mean, I've had so much sobbing and tapping, and it's been so releasing, which is good. And if people know that going into it, they're less
Yeah.
afraid of it. Otherwise, they're like, oh my God, I'm bringing that up and it's making it worse. No, it's not. It's actually activating the things so that you're allowing it to leave the nervous system.
Yep. Yep. And moving it through,
Yes.
and being witness to it.
Yeah.
One little thing I want to kind of end with, so, is every morning, or once a week, to stand in front of the mirror, because if our body is holding shame, which every body does, is I want you to practice standing up straight. And how that starts is with your feet, to notice your feet and put them straight. There's um, reasons for all of this, but I'm just going to give you the basics. So your feet are straight. So if you tend to have duck feet or they turn in, just once a day, I'd like you to have them straight and about 2 fist widths apart. Because when there's a lot of shame held in the body, the tendency is to have the feet really close together.
Mm,
And because what that does is it makes you smaller.
that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And it makes you if you tend to have, we talked about archetypes, the invisible child wound, that will be in play, and it will feel very strange and vulnerable to open the feet, because you're opening the body all the way up to the pelvis. So
Yeah.
the practice is to stand with your feet straight, 2 fist widths apart, your fist widths. And then imagine a string pulling your body up. So it's not a matter of tucking your belly in or sucking that in. So right from the perineum, a string internally in the body, pulling it all the way up. So your body literally starts to stand up, because when there's shame, the shoulders come forward, the diaphragm collapses, and the pelvis tucks. And if you have any of those, to notice, and an invitation to that is, I'm okay right now.
Mm, I love that.
And even to add in some of the tapping,
Yeah.
but to start to retrain the flesh and the body of what it feels like to take up space
Yeah. Yeah.
in your own bathroom by yourself.
Yeah.
that might not be applicable in some situations in this part of what does it feel like in my body to take up a little space,
Right.
to stand tall. Because when we stand tall, we're taking up space. When we
Mhm.
open our shoulders, we're opening up the heart space so people can feel us and
Yeah.
experience us. And
Yeah.
then the last part is to look into your own eyes. Someone that holds a lot of shame will have a very challenging time looking at you. They'll look down or they'll be talking over here. And so the practice of you looking in your own eyes
Mhm.
is the beginning of remapping the body. And then to also add in the tapping, whatever that needs to be for you to settle some of the activations that might come in by taking up space.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Like, that's a great combination with the body posturing, and to me, the first place to start tapping is like, "I don't wanna feel this. I'm not gonna do it, and you can't make me." Like, "No, I'm not gonna do it." That is honoring the part of us like, "No, thanks.
Yep.
Drugs, if you think I'm gonna feel that, not doing it. Moo."
One of a funny thing that happens with the work, the somatic work that I do, and I'll tell people this, I'll say, now I'm going to tell you to practice these things like what I just said. And more often than not, you're going to get home and go, I'm not doing that. She's crazy. I'm not doing that. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying is to
Right.
allow yourself to tap on that resistance because that happens all the time. Our
Yeah.
body protected us.
Absolutely. It's the same when I'm working with clients who there's stuff with their parents and, honor thy father and mother. And it's like, oh, I can't talk about them that way. And I'm always encouraging, like, because when I did that, when I finally got that out, like my truth at the time about how I felt about my parents, I was like, wow, I don't hate them. Like
Yeah.
I get, but all the time I was told, this stuff that just kept suppression. It was like I see that saying, the truth will set you free so much differently now. It's like, yeah, it will. It'll set you free.
Yep.
But you do it in
And
a safe, healthy way.
yeah. And it does, it creates
Yeah.
liberation from just like what when you were reading, she used the word binding. That is a very real thing in the body, in somatics, because it feels like sometimes ropes or twine twisted
Yeah.
in your nervous system and you can't catch your breath. You
Yes.
can't stand up straight. You can't speak. That is
Right.
real. And that
Yeah.
term is a somatic term
Yeah. I
of
love that.
binding.
Love it. Yeah.
So always practice bringing in the body component with the tapping. Start to observe and notice your own posture. Pull it up more often. People like it's 80% of communication.
It is, right? Yeah.
And you being aware of it, I practice it every day and you're going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
There is no perfect in it, but just
No.
to be aware of it and notice where am I at today? How am I
Right.
standing today?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's just so huge. Yeah.
Yeah, powerful, powerful combination of awareness and tapping. I love
Yes.
both of them.
Me too. Me too. Like you said, the perfect marriage.
Yeah. So thank you, Marty. This was a fabulous
Thank you,
conversation.
Christy. It was awesome. Thanks
And
everyone for being here.
yeah, and we'll be back next time.
Yes. See
Please
you next time.
share the podcast and subscribe. We will continue to add every other week. We've talked about to put out a new podcast. And like we said, if you would like to put in the comments different things that you would like to tap on or body questions, we are so open to however this evolves.
Yeah, we'd love it. And if you're not comfortable putting it there, you could always email,
Yep.
privately, because we can keep it anonymous as well.
Yep.
Sure.
And that is the contact is also on the YouTube page.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah. Thanks, Marty. And we'll see you
Oh,
next time.
see you next time. Bye.